Guys, you have your warm up to get started on. Warm up is on the board. Hello. Let's go ahead and get started on this warm-up, okay? The warm-up says, during wartime, who do you think gains opportunities? Who might face new challenges and why? All right, so think about who gains out of war. Who might face a new challenge? Why is that? All right, I'll give you a couple moments to work on this, and then we're going to discuss as a class. You must have put it in late. I didn't get one from you.
You didn't say that we both had to turn it in.
Well, you both have to turn it in.
So what, is mine gonna be marked late now?
No.
How do I do that?
Yes. Okay, so who do you think might gain during wartime?
A country with a good leader and good blood.
A country with a good leader and with a good military. Okay, that's fair. Put your phone away. Yes.
A country with good resources.
Good resources. Okay, a country that has a fair amount of resources. That's yes.
Countries that supply other countries with, like weapons.
Country that supplies other countries. Hey, that's a really good answer, right? Because if you have a defense industry and you are churning out weapons, right, for other countries, you might be doing really well during war, right? There's this thing that we call the military-industrial complex, and that is all of the different industries that help supply the military with their things that they need, right? Bullets, tanks, all that good stuff, right? And countries that have large military industrial complexes within wartime, they're doing pretty good, right? I like that answer, yes.
Countries with a lot of allies.
Countries with a lot of allies, okay. All right, are they facing, do you think they're getting opportunities or facing challenges?
It might be, it's kind of like both, cause like, they have people that can help and it's like, the war expands, so like, I don't know how to explain the challenges part, but it's kind of good.
Okay, could be a little bit of both. All right, that's fair. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, so there are definitely different people who might have opportunities, might face challenges, right? All kinds of different groups might go either way, all right? Today, what we're going to do is we're going to be analyzing the social and economic consequences of World War II on women, African Americans, Mexican Americans, Asian Americans, and Native Americans. Okay, so those different minority groups we're going to be taking a look at and seeing how World War II affected them. All right, we've already done our warm-up today. I'm going to talk a little bit about historical context, right? So I'm going to give you just a little, like very brief 5-minute lecture talking about these different groups and what they experienced after World War II. Then after that, you are going to move to 5 different stations. There's 5 different stations that are posted up around the room, okay? These different stations have 2 guiding questions at each station, all right? And you're gonna answer those guiding questions, and you're also gonna take some notes on this little graphic organizer that I've handed out to you, okay? You're gonna write down any social changes you notice, any economic changes you notice, and then any, if they're making progress, or if they have any kind of limitations, okay? So you're just gonna take down notes, answer the guiding questions at each little station, all right? After that, we're going to have a fishbowl discussion. So we're just gonna come back to our seats, we're gonna sit down, okay? And then I'm gonna ask you guiding questions. I'm gonna ask you questions, and you guys are going to have a conversation about it. I'm going to track the conversation, all right? Now, the way this looks is that I have a little paper here that has a circle on it. And all I do is I track the conversation. Okay, Haley said this, and then the next person said this over here, right? And what we're supposed to have at the very end of it is a big spider web where everybody has contributed to the conversation. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get done. We're trying to get a big spider web where everybody has contributed something to the conversation. All right, and then finally after that, very quickly, we will have a CER to write about the whole thing. Okay, so that is the agenda for today. Your CER prompt, so what you're gonna be trying to figure out for this entire lesson is on the board now. It says, did World War II create meaningful progress for marginalized groups in the United States? Use evidence from at least 2 groups. That is also written on the graphic organizer I gave you under essential question. Okay, so while you are at your stations today, take a look and see if you can kind of get some notes to answer that, or write down some evidence that you find to help you a little bit later. Okay, so you're always gonna keep that in the back of your mind. Is meaningful progress being made for this marginalized group? Okay? All right, so we're talking a little bit about all of these different groups, right? And we have, this really should be a review for you. We have talked about these different groups in different lessons already. Does anybody remember what happens with the Japanese in World War II at home? Yes.
They were put in camps and stuff, and then in the US they go to internment camps because they thought they were allies in the war. I meant when the Japanese hit.
Yeah, okay, so Japanese, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign you a number. That number belongs to a station. Okay, you're gonna go to that station. You are going to meet up with your little group there. And then I'm gonna put 3 minutes on the board. Or I'm sorry, 5 minutes on the board. I'll give you 5 minutes at each station. 5 minutes each station, and then you're going to rotate to the next station. Okay? I believe station number 1 is right over here. Station 1, station 2, station 3, station 4, and station 5. Okay? So remember the number that I give you. That's going to be the first station that you go to. Everybody understand so far?
You want us to take notes of this video?
I do want you to take notes and answer the guided questions. Correct. So what do you need to remember, Don?
The station number.
The station number that I give you. Correct. Right. And what are you going to be taking at the stations? Notes and answering the guided questions. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Station 1. Come over here. So if you are a station 1 person, over here. If you're a station 2 person, you're over here. If you're a station 3 person, you're over here. If you're a station 4 person, you're over here. If you're a station 5 person, you're over here. I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. Remember, take notes. See if there's anything that you can find in there to answer your essential question. And also answer the guided questions on the sheet of paper that I have given you. Okay? Ready? You got 5 minutes. Let's get started. Talk it over with your group because you guys are going to be moving together as groups, right? So it's going to be best for you to work on this together. All right. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States government forced over 100,000 Japanese Americans into internment camps. Under Executive 9066, many people were removed from their homes, placed in camps without trials. They lost property, businesses, personal freedom. Okay, what happened to the Japanese Americans after Pearl Harbor?
They lost their property and.
Okay, they lost property, businesses, and personal freedom.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Right there. Questions 1 and 2. That was the first question. It's right there.
Oh.
Yeah. You. So how did Native Americans help the United States or Alright, join the military and do what? Yeah, but they did something specific. Okay.
Oh.
Sources. They did code talking. They started making codes, right? All right, how's it
Oh,
going?
okay. Why do you make
Make sure you're taking notes on your graphic organizer as well. All right. How are we doing over here? All right. We are going to be moving clockwise. So go to your next station. Yeah, they were often temporary. After the war ended, many women were expected to leave their jobs. And then when you look over here at the primary sources, you've got
people saying that when the soldiers came home, we were told our jobs were no longer needed. It was hard to give up something we had worked so hard to achieve. Right? So these women went off and got started in these factories and got jobs and were really excited about it. And then the men came home and then they had to go back to the house. Not cool. That's a huge social change. I would say you
What's the question, sir? Second one.
had jobs and then lost them. And that was very hard to deal with.
What are we doing after we do the last rotation?
No, we're gonna do a discussion.
Which group experience?
Okay, guys, we ready to move on to the next one? All right. Move to the last station. Last station. Last station. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay, are we done with this one? Alright guys, everybody go back to your seats. Go back to your seats. And we are going to skip the CER. We're not going to be able to do the CER because we do not have enough time. However, we are going to do the discussion real quick. Okay? I need everybody to join in on the discussion and share what they found out. Okay? And I will track it. So, I'm going to pose this question to you first. The first question is, do you think World War II created meaningful progress for these groups in the United States? Raise your hand.
Wait, say that one more time?
Do you think World War II created meaningful progress for these groups in the United States? Yes. Yes, Landon. Let's-
I'm gonna say yes because even though they lost their jobs, women were able to get new job opportunities.
Okay, Landon says yes, even though they lost their job, women were able to get new job opportunities. Who wants to respond to what Landon said? Maya?
I disagree with that because it's not really meaningful progress if their jobs are only temporary. So like, they were able to get new job opportunities, but it was short-lived just because they were women. So it's not really progress, it's kind of just pulling them backwards.
Okay. Anybody want to respond to that? Yes.
I would say the same thing for all the groups because after the war, their jobs were done.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We see quite a bit that after the war, the progress that had been made kind of gets reverted, right? Kind of goes back. All right. Anybody else have anything to say about that? Yes.
I would say I agree with that because, even after the war ended, like, there were still a lot of problems with all of these groups, like, African Americans, they had to do all of this stuff, and it was just like, even though they had, like, they were helping the economy and stuff, they were still discriminated, and there's, like, these groups are still discriminated now, so it's not progress if it didn't really help anything, like, even though they made all the laws and amendments and stuff to prevent this, it still didn't really change anything.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. We still see some of this discrimination happening today, right? For instance, women still make around 80 cents to the dollar of what men make, right? There's still discrimination today, so can we say that this was meaningful from World War II? Did anybody see any experiences of groups that were similar? The zoo suits, yeah.
They were still discriminated against, and even though they were helping and contributing to the country.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. We see that with the Mexican Americans, right? They were brought over here to do jobs, and then they're discriminated against with the whole Zoot Suit riots, right? That was pretty crazy. You see any other minority communities that were dealing with similar issues? Yeah.
African Americans, because like, they weren't allowed to get jobs, and then when they needed help in the war, they like, let them have military jobs and stuff, and do all this stuff, but they were still being discriminated, even though they were helping.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a big part of it. Like, right, African Americans trying to get jobs, trying to help out the war effort, but still being discriminated against. It's kind of wild. It almost seems as if we're using these groups, you know, when we need them, and then we kind of are discarding them when we don't, right? Which group do you think had economic gains but not social gains?
Probably the Native Americans, because they helped us more by literally using their membership because they were broken.
Yeah.
But after the war, I would say some faced cultural shock or culture shock
Mhm.
because although some they did like learn to adapt, others had a hard time leaving their traditions and with what they've known for a really long time behind. So I would just say some really struggled like society because they're not used to it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Were there any other groups that you think, gained economically but not socially? What about women?
Yeah, because they had a job and all the men went to war, but then as soon as they came back, they lost their job.
Yeah, they had jobs when all the men went to war, but as soon as the men come back, they lose their jobs, right? So they gain some money, they gain some economic independence, but socially, obviously, they were not being promoted at all because when the men come back, they lose their jobs pretty quickly, right? Are there any of these groups that you think experienced any kind of progress? Meaningful progress, yeah.
The Native Americans, because they moved to cities and their traditions and stuff.
Okay, yeah, one could argue that is progress. Absolutely, yeah, I could see that. Native Americans moving away from traditional way of life and moving into cities, yeah.
I could say women, but only a little bit because like they were proving that they were capable workers, and then later on they like managed to get the right to vote and like get jobs and stuff. But it was like it's progress and limits because they were still being put back, but they got progress later on.
Okay, so that is definitely one argument that is made, particularly for the African American community too, is that, okay, so they come home and immediately civil rights does not happen, right? But you could make the argument that without World War II, do you think that the civil rights movement of the 1960s happens that quickly in 20 years? Probably not, right? But with World War II, the civil rights movement can look back and say, hey, we have fought and bled for this country, and we have done the same thing that white men do. There is no reason why we should not be treated equally, right? That's a fair statement to make, right? But it doesn't happen right away. Sometimes it takes a little while for us to see the gains that World War II makes. Anybody else have anything? Okay, so now that we've discussed this, all right, see you later. Have a good one. Turn it into the bin.